Did dialysis at 86.
Dialysis.
How old is she? 86. She's been doing it for a year, 3
Yeah.
times a week.
Has anyone seen,
Not one thing.
anyone worked for W.E.A.L.T.H? You know W.E.A.L.T.H?
No.
You see those popping up all over the place. W.E.A.L.T.H is a dialysis company. It has a lot of places. And I can't say, there may be one across the street, I can't remember.
But my aunt's obese,
Uh-huh.
and so she's got insulin diabetes. It's probably from her weight, right?
Yeah, obesity has a huge factor in developing first insulin resistance. It's a continuum of the body's ability or inability to convert and to store sugar and use insulin to store. So, diabetes is a good example of this. And that's why there's so many dialysis centers around, is because of the epidemic of diabetes. My uncle, who was a surgeon, he urged me to go into medicine since I was very young. And I worked with him at age 18. I worked in performing surgeries with him. This was 1971, when there were big cuts. I mean, we made big, huge open things. You know, it was a great experience. I fainted the first 2 times. What's that? Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
But age 18, so he wanted me to take over. He called it his gold mine. But I didn't end up doing that. I went into natural medicine, and I was a big disappointment for him. But in the meantime, he really didn't take very good care of his health. And he had diabetes, and so he ended up in a nursing home, and one leg was chopped off. And then not too long later, another one gangrene, chopped off. He had bed sores, and I would go in when I would visit, and part of the time he'd know who I was, and part of the time he had no idea who I was. That is the influence of blood sugar dysregulation on the brain and how well the brain functions or does. I had an aunt who was also had diabetes. She was in a nursing home. I went to visit her when I was visiting Indianapolis, and I went in on a good day. And she recognized me, and I hadn't seen her for like 15, 20 years. And so, you know, we had this great conversation and everything. I talked to her daughters, my cousin. They said, oh, she recognized you? Wow, that's surprising. Because most of the time they would go in and she didn't recognize it. And she was also in hospitals, in crisis, and things like that because of other issues. So, blood sugar influences the brain. We have to have sugar in our brain for us to have enough energy to continue to think and all the processes go on. So we eat it, but too much is not a good thing because it's inflammatory. Diabetes is an inflammatory condition. And in the B.R.A.I.N. moniker, I stands for inflammation. So we want to address inflammation in our body and not necessarily steroids. Because that suppresses.
When you think about inflammation, you usually think of joints.
Inflammation anywhere in the body is important to quell because if there's a local area, if you have a systemic inflammation, it's just going to amp it up. It's like a rheostat. And as we said, in many circles, like anyone know Dr. Dale Bredesen at the B.A.N.K Institute? Anyone heard of the B.A.N.K Institute?
Of course.
Yeah.
It was there when they broke ground.
Yeah, so they do a lot of research on aging and stuff, and Dale Bredesen and some others down at UCLA did a study, and they call certain kinds of Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. So there is a direct relationship between Alzheimer's and diabetes and blood sugar. Okay, inflammation we talked a little bit about already. Blood circulation. Now, how many people have ever worn a necktie? Yeah.
Matt's necktie?
Okay. And if it's too tight, what happens? Cuts off your circulation, right? Yeah. Well, I was talking. I like to use also the analogy of a noose. You know, but that's too controversial. So I won't even bring up the subject of a noose and what it does if it chokes you, right? And it cuts off the blood. It also snaps your spine, and which having your spinal cord stretched, not a good thing, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I hang on the grappling machine,
Yeah.
and that stretches your
With your
spine.
feet up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your feet are right here, and your
Yeah.
head's at the bottom.
Yeah. That's good.
That's not that for your response?
No, that's not like bungee cord jumping.
Okay.
That's not like one.
Okay,
Like
you're
that.
really like talking about visual
But,
impacts.
yeah, but the point is we have to get blood circulation to our brain. And everyone's heard of the carotid artery? Yeah, where's that?
Here.
Here, good, good. And how about the vertebral artery? You heard of that?
Yes.
So there's an artery that goes up the back here through the vertebra, and it feeds 40% of the blood you bring. This feeds about 60%.
When I get that headache, that's right up there, is that what that is?
It could be. There's a lot of possible reasons why that's going on. But we need to get all the blood circulating up there. And if we have a lot of muscle tension in this area, that can cause a reaction and a vasoconstriction of the vertebral artery. So we're going to have some restriction in that 40% that is going on. Also, so this video, this purple one,
Dr. J, if you do aerobics, then you're helping with all that, right? You're pushing the blood around.
aerobics is a good thing.
Yeah.
But there are certain structural issues that aerobics are not going to help. Because it just has to be open. Let's see. This is all right. All right. So this is, you may think it's not related, but it is related. All right. So this is before the testing. So tell me a little bit about what's going on symptomology-wise.
Right. Having headaches. Today's not so bad, but usually it's pretty bad.
This is a woman who was in her 20s, who was in grad school. She had to quit grad school. Her girlfriend was supporting her, had been taking care of her for 2 years. Her family had to pay for everything to take care of her, and that was becoming a financial stress for her, for them as well. So there was some family issues going on there too. So she had brain fog. She couldn't think clearly. She couldn't focus. And then there's other symptoms going on. Now this is very similar to the issues that if the brain degenerates, you have Alzheimer's and dementia. It's very, very similar. So I'm going to talk about what we did to help, which is a structural issue having to do with blood circulation. But just listen to her and watch the difference in how she presents over the course of this.
My ulcer was often, just shut down by doctors, like, it's a mental thing, as well as multiple chemical
Sensitivity, yeah.
which are like right
Yeah,
there.
they're merged together.
So
There's a lot of associations.
I'm
with this,
really,
right?
really glad that people are becoming more aware.
Yeah. Your temples or?
Whole forehead, temples. Sometimes you can feel it in the back of my head as well. A lot of pain in my neck and upper back. It's at about a 5 right now. Fatigue is really bad. Depression, anxiety, those are all pretty bad. Average about a 6 every day.
For the depression and the anxiety. And low back, you said also?
Lower back's in pain. It's not as bad as the upper back. It's not a priority, but it's about a 3.
3, all right. And then we talk about brain fog.
Brain fog is. I'm so sorry.
Having a party here.
Brain fog is right now probably a 4. Pretty foggy.
All right, that's great.
My pain decreased quite a bit, and the
You
most
notice how our face is a little more flush.
my brain fog
More blood
basically went down quite a bit.
Circulation.
Okay, how much do you think?
It was probably a 5 or 6, and when I left, it was probably a 2 or 3.
Excellent, that was after the last visit.
Yes.
All right, we just had another visit. How are you feeling now?
Relaxed.
That's right, because you said you felt really relaxed after the last one. That was helpful.
Yes, it's very helpful, since that's a big problem, I think.
Exactly. Good. Thank you.
No.
All right, so this is before the 4th treatment. And so tell me, Lisa.
My back feels a lot better. The pain in my neck is a lot better. It's especially a lot better right after a session. It does slowly come back, but not as bad as it was before.
And energy and brain
Energy
fog
is a
still?
lot better. Brain fog's a lot less, so a lot less foggy.
And sleep?
Sleep's getting a lot better. I feel like I'm sleeping more restfully. A lot better during the day, which is good.
So you're still feeling better, and it gets a little worse at night, the pain does?
Yeah.
Sleep-wise, change in patterns?
No, I think it's about the same. I'm still sleeping quite a bit, but it seems a little bit more restful sleep, which at least is
That's good.
being 12 hours and still tired.
So you're waking up feeling a little like it doesn't take quite as long to get going again?
Yeah, exactly.
And still late at night, falling asleep late?
Not that late, like last night was, I mean, it was late, it was 2, but it's, for me, it's not that.
Compared to like 5 or
Yes,
something?
exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Shoot for 2.
And back and neck? And,
Back and neck pain's better. It does seem to get a little bit worse at night, but
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And, okay, and brain fog? And,
brain fog's a lot better. I feel a little bit more concentrated back into feeling like I can speak more clearly.
Good. Anything else?
That's about it.
And mood and
Mood's been better, definitely.
like what way?
More energy, not as depressed, slash, more upbeat and happy.
All right, and no grouchiness or anything?
No more than usual.
Okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is after the treatment today. So tell me what kind of changes you notice?
My neck pain is almost non-existent right now. It's just really nice. I'm very relaxed. I can think clearly, a lot of energy. Hopefully going to be able to exercise today. So,
Wow,
yeah.
fantastic. All right, thanks a lot.
No problem.
So you might be wondering exactly what was going on with her. And so she was having problems with what we call meningeal compression. Everyone know what the meninges are?
No,
Yeah?
no.
Val, you know. Can you explain it?
It's just a membrane right in your brain, that's what I thought.
Yes.
Membrane.
It is a membrane that surrounds the brain and the spinal cord. So this is that brain that you saw in the TV segment. So on one side, I don't have anything on it. On this side, I wrapped it in saran wrap. Because the meninges are sort of like saran wrap. And it goes in every convolution in the brain. There's 3 layers. They all have different names. And it also surrounds the spinal cord. This is a fake spinal cord. And if the head is moved violently like that with a whiplash injury, or if you're a blow to the side of the head, that can influence the meninges as well. And you can get torquing and twisting of it. So anyone ever had like a wetsuit on? Wetsuits, okay. And if you haven't worn a wetsuit, have you ever worn tights? Okay. So if you have 3 layers of those on, that's sort of like the meninges. It sticks right, I mean, let's say your naked body is the nervous system, all right? Then the wetsuit and the leotards are sticking right up against the body and it follows every move. But there's a little bit of flexibility. And if blood was flowing between 2 of the layers and cerebrospinal fluid was flowing through the other 2 layers, that's essentially how it works. And a wetsuit, as well as leotards, do they keep everything out? Are they like saran wrap?
Not everything.
No. There's a certain amount of permeability to that material. And the same thing with the meninges. The meninges are part of what's called the blood-brain barrier. So it keeps certain things out, like you don't want bacteria in there, you don't want viruses in your brain and stuff. It's not a good thing, right? So there's certain things, but we also need certain nutrients to be able to get into the brain. So, that's annoying.
Do we not have a meninges here in your abdomen as well?
Sorry?
A meninges?
There are no meninges in the abdomen. The meninges are sort of like a connective tissue, and so as it exits out of the spine, it surrounds the nerve roots, and then from there you get fascia. So there's a connection between the fascia that surrounds all the muscles and all the tendons, etc., and meninges. But so she was having problems with meningeal compression. And so she wasn't getting all the blood flow and the cerebral spinal fluid that's necessary into her brain. So that was one of the things that we opened that up. So the moment that happens, then she got, you can see that she got more alert, and she also got a little red. So that's one of the things that has to be done structurally.
At such a young age.
Oh, there's all kinds of possible reasons why. It could be falls, it could be slips and falls, it could be an inflammatory condition. There's a lot of different reasons why it happens. It's also a postural thing. It's a structural issue that can happen. So let's put the brain back in the skull here. And if you want to know a little bit more about that, I do have some videos online. If you just put my name in and you say meningeal compression, I explain it a bit more. Using this same prop here, so you see the real thing, and you can see the other one. So the meninges are very, very important, and that's one of the things that I check for. And there are only about 250 people around the country that have been trained in this. I've been doing this for 9 years. And so it's a key component. So do you think if you had a noose around your neck, or if you had a meningeal compression torquing, that could possibly affect your brain? Not having blood flow to the brain.
Sure. So what kind of procedures did you do with B.R.A.I.N that improved the heart?
It's a manual procedure. Yeah, to untorque the meninges. Okay, we talked about heavy metals as another issue. Now, what are some of the heavy metals that are bad for the brain? Any ideas? Mercury,
Aluminum?
aluminum,
Lead,
lead. Yeah, aluminum is sort of a heavy metal, but it's not. It's a metal, and it definitely heavy. And also cadmium, large amounts. These are not good. So, can anyone think of any particular product that used to have lead in it and it doesn't anymore?
paint, yeah.
Pencils.
Pencils.
Pencils, yeah. How about gasoline?
Yeah, right.
Gasoline used to be better.
How about the fillings in your teeth?
Filling.
That was mercury.
So there are dental amalgams. It's a mixture of mercury, 50% mercury, and other metals. And yes, that can leach. We know that, and, you know, you're chewing and it wears away, and so that gets into your
So
system.
does regular galvanized pipes in a house leach?
Galvanized pipes, I think the galvanized part can leach into the water, but also when you have copper tubes and they use solder, the solder can leach into the water. So it's very important to use water filtration system to keep that from going into your body. And not all are equal. I think the multi-pure system is the best because it's independently tested.
Multi-pure?
Multi-pure, yeah. There's others around, but you have to really look at the fine print and make sure they're tested up to various standards of cleaning setup. You definitely, we talked about R. Who was the one who knew R? Is that you, Walter? Remove toxins, right. So this is an example. You want to not only remove toxins that got into your body or in your body, still in there, but you want to remove toxins from the environment that could go in your body. So you don't want it in your food and you don't want it in your water. And we drink a lot of water, we should. And water is a really vital component. And so cleaning the water that you drink or eat is very, very important part of preventing brain degeneration.
Is the plastic that you drink the water out of also dangerous?
Yeah, there are plastics that are good now. This is probably a junky one.
And
I got this for
also,
free. I can just
depending
down
on
it
the
online.
heat that's applied, if you leave it in the car and it gets hot, then it leaches,
The plastic?
There's certain kinds that are better and others that are worse. Stainless steel is probably the very best thing. And glass. And then we talk about another part of the puzzle is toxicity. So what are some examples of toxicity? Oh, I don't know if I do have this in here.
That's picture. You're
What do you
looking at
think
your
that is?
girlfriend.
Okay, one last video, sorry. Let's see this one. As I meet a variety of people in business events and in my office, etc., I talk about the fact that I've written a couple books on how to maximize your brain health and outsmarting the dementia epidemic. Well, because it is an epidemic. So many people have been touched by Alzheimer's and their family and friends who have Alzheimer's or died with it. This particular story is about a woman I met the other evening who has written a children's book about Oakland. And she mentioned, when I showed her my book on dementia, she mentioned her father having had Alzheimer's and how he had been very healthy. He did all kinds of fantastic things that are the typical things people are doing on their own in order to try to keep their brain healthy. These are great things, but I mentioned that heavy metal toxicity, other kinds of chemical toxicity, also are influences and help to break down the brain cells, help to damage not only brain cells, other cells in the body, but they can destroy the brain. And so it reminded her of her father and his experience in Vietnam War. So that's what this segment is about. And it's also a little bit of introduction to the children's book that she wrote. So please enjoy this video.
My name is Maria Lofton, and I'm really excited to read this book by Dr. J, especially because for me, I had a father who, when he died, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I feel like he did everything that they tell you to do to prevent it, as far as eating super healthy, all the different, great memory games, different things you can do. He played chess, he had a black belt karate, he ran around the lake every day, but he still had Alzheimer's. And my mother, she thinks a lot of it, or one contributing factor was he was in the Vietnam War, he served in the Vietnam War, and everybody in his group, they all ended up with Alzheimer's, and she feels like it might be from the metal plates or cups that they were eating out of at the time. So that's one theory on what contributed to his Alzheimer's.
So you also have a children's book. Tell me about
And
that.
I have a children's book. It's called My City is Oakland, and this is Oakland's first children's book. And it takes you through all the different parts of the city that no matter when you were born, everyone shares similar childhood experiences and recognizing different landmarks in Oakland. This book will definitely bring back great memories of growing up in Oakland, if you grew up in Oakland, and for people who are new to Oakland, it's also a great guide to let you know where to take your children or just different locations in the city to check out. So My City is Oakland.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can tell that was a
As I meet a variety of people-
setting that I did that. So we're almost finished.
So you
with those
mentioned the
who-
Agent Orange I saw up there,
What's that?
the Agent Orange.
Yeah.
How does that?
We're gonna talk about that.
My stepfather died of that. Just curious.
So there's a lot of different types of toxicity related to brain degeneration. Agent Orange is one of those. It was used extensively in Vietnam. It was a defoliant, so it's a mixture of herbicide and gasoline. And they go down, they would catch the things on fire and just totally eliminate all the ground cover so they could see people. And so gasoline, probably not the best thing to be exposed to all the time.
And it was leaded
Let alone-
then. It was leaded then.
Probably, yeah. I hadn't thought about that part. And the herbicide. There's also a lot of pesticides that exist in the environment. Roundup is a very big one, very common. And Roundup itself is good for you, but it does break down. But the breakdown byproduct stays in the environment forever. And it's ubiquitous. There isn't soil and water anywhere in the U.S. and in some other countries where you can't find traces of it. And it does break down as neurotoxic.
It's in a lot of our food.
Asbestos, not a good thing. It can cause brain degeneration, other kinds of problems. There are all kinds of solvents like carbon tetrachloride. It's not good. Breathing that, and that's a brain degenerant. There are toxins in drinking water, toxins in food. So addressing the issue of toxicity is a key thing to address and look at when we are talking about how do we try to prevent brain degeneration.
Jay, is acetone one of these solvents?
Acetone's, yeah, another solvent. Yeah, it probably says on the label, don't breathe it. So certainly you don't want to drink it. You don't want to put it on your skin. I mean, when you're doing stuff, you should wear good industrial strength gloves. tones.
That's what we use to remove nail polish.
Oh, yeah. There's, there are a lot of chemicals in cosmetics too. And they say that in the course of a year, I didn't do the study, but I think it's something like women consume like 2 or 3 pounds of lipstick in the course of a year.
Wow.
They have to consume it. And their partners consume 5.
All depends on the relationship, I guess.
And so the question here is, which factors might be affecting you? Which of these puzzle pieces might be affecting your brain? And you don't even know it. So it could be things like toxicity. It could be traumas that cause meningeal compression or other blows to the head. One of the things, that in that woman, Maria was her name, I believe. That's my daughter, Alma. I thought I shut this off. She's 15 and a half now. I said in the other thing she was on. Maria mentioned her father in the Vietnam War and possibly eating off of plates that had heavy metals and things. Well, there's Agent Orange she didn't mention, but it's definitely, you find it online, it's a big deal. It's a big thing for Alzheimer's brain degeneration. Also, so I'm going to have this drum here, right? So this is sort of like the meninges. Any kind of sound vibration will come and influence the meninges. And this is nothing close to like IEDs and all the other kind of weapons that are fired. So there's this concussion effect that is influencing the nervous system as well. And that can cause an influence on the meninges also. So that's something to be thought of. Additionally, as far as why is the brain being impacted, how it can be impacted. Yeah.
What about loud music, like going to concerts where it's booming?
Well, have you gone to loud music before?
I have.
And have you used earplugs?
No, but I should.
Everyone should, yeah, everyone should. But do you feel the music?
You bet you do.
Yeah. So yeah, there is sound vibration, and I think it's not quite the same because it's not this huge blast, but it does influence your body, and it can cause problems with your hearing if you don't protect your hearing. So yeah, but I think there may be some modulation. I mean, most loud sounds and stuff that of explosions, I don't think they're pitched in with a musical intention, right? And so music has a lot of overtones and undertones, and those armaments probably also do, but I don't think they're very healthy ones. They weren't created with the purpose to make you feel good,
Yeah.
or to make you get up and dance, maybe get up and run. But certainly I get up and dance.
I have a question for you. I just have a friend, my friend's daughter just had some brain surgery. When
Yes.
you remove portion of your brain, does the meninges kind of grow back? How does that?
I'm not an expert on brain surgery, and so when they go through, they have to obviously go through the meninges to get into the brain material. They might just close it back up. I'm not positive. I don't know how they do it. There is some malleability and stuff. If they're removing part of the brain mass, then there's like a gap there, and they aren't going to be able to like fold everything back into the folds of the brain. So there may be some influence from that, but also the positions that a person is in when they're getting surgery. It can be all torqued around, and that can cause a torquing of the meninges itself, just in surgery. And so they may come out, they might have problems there because they got twisted around, and it's like that wetsuit, you just take the sleeve, you go like that, it's cutting off sensation. You get weird sensations. A lot of weird sensations in the body might be due to meningeal compression because it's compressing a nerve and it's sort of like irritating it all the time. Have you ever used those Chinese handcuffs? You know what those things are? You stick your finger and you go like that, and there's the friction. It's sort of like that. The meningeal compression can torque, and it can cause these weird nerve sensations. They can't be explained any other way. And when that's released, then often the person goes, "Oh my God, it's better." I don't know. Anyway, so it's something to think about. Food allergens also is a key issue. Each person, each of us is a unique individual. There's no No way that you can specifically say, okay, you just take this pill, everyone take this pill, and everything's fine. All these things have to be individualized. So we have to look at body alignment, structure. There may be accidents a person had, or contusions, whiplash injuries, surgeries also that can be influencing the way the nervous system is working. The immune system is a key component. How well you are able to digest your food. If you aren't getting the nutrients, that's a problem. If you aren't breaking them down properly, you may be getting weird things in your bloodstream that the body says, well, what is that? That looks like a, that looks like a piece of avocado, but it's a lot bigger than it usually is, so maybe it's bacteria. So it starts fighting that, and then you have these allergies to avocado because it wasn't broken down into small enough pieces. Inflammatory conditions. 70% of our immune system is in the digestive system. Did you know that? 70%. And so if we don't deal with our digestive system properly, our immune system gets thrown off.
So how does it affect your system when you get your digestive system altered?
Well, you can have inflammatory conditions. It's like our small intestines where we absorb nutrients. It's like a screen door. Anyone ever used a screen door? Yeah, what's the purpose of a screen door?
Keep the bugs
I forgot
out.
what it was.
Jen,
Oh, yeah, Jim.
keep the bugs out.
Jen, what's the purpose of a screen door? Keep the bugs out. You said, right, exactly. Now, when you were little, did you ever like take a pencil and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, kids did, right? I did. And so that opens a hole. Do you think that the flies can get in? Yeah, some of them can. That's what happens to our small intestine if it's not taken care of. It's like a screen door. It's supposed to only allow certain size food particles to get in, but if it gets opened up, bigger ones can get in, and then we have an immune reaction to it. So if your digestive system isn't healthy, you can get these holes in your gut.
That's
And then that-
leaky gut.
So gastric bypasses and.
Leaky gut syndrome, yeah.
May cause problems.
That could
We don't know about it.
certainly surgical things can cause that,
Band-Aids.
but not in a whole broad-based kind of area. And then there's environmental exposures we talked about, and including multiple medication uses. Like if you have 5, 6, 8, 12 different medications, and many people on that, there's no idea what that is doing to your system really because it's never been tested. So that can cause problems with the brain. Many times, taking people off of all those medications, their brain fog clears up. So sometimes that's masking. Dementia stuff is they're saying, oh, this person has dementia, but actually there's these drug interactions.
Have they done any tests
Making
on
them
medicinal
stupid.
marijuana? Have they done any tests on medicinal marijuana for dementia?
Well, I went to a talk about 2 weeks ago that was at Lakeside Park, and it was on the use of medical cannabis in seniors. And so they didn't really, one of the primary things that are being used for is agitation and also for pain control and to reduce the amount of medications a person would have to take that may be causing other problems. Apparently the National Institute of Health did studies on it, and it actually improves on CBD, which is cannabidiol. It's one of the components in the marijuana plant, THC and CBD. And that actually, they took a patent out. The U.S. government has a patent on CBD. And they found that it helps Parkinson's and it helps with seizures, and it also may have some positive influence on dementia. But they have the patent on it, so maybe if you want to license it from them, then you can pay them. So essentially, the brain health program is my attempt to be the puzzle solver, figure out which of these components might be going on. Now this is something that you need to do whether you see me, wherever you go. You need to look at all these different components and talk to your doctor and say, oh, well, what about this? What about that? What can we do to help reduce that exposure to those problems? Because all those things do have an influence on the brain. So at this point, it's 7 o'clock, and I think this is supposed to be 5:37. And so some people got a survey, and if you had any interest in a discovery session with me, make sure that you turn that in. You have to have your name, your phone number, and your email on there so I can contact you. It's a free discovery session. There's a few extra surveys and things we have you fill out. But we would also like you to donate to the Alzheimer's Association tonight, right now. And if you do, then you get one of my books, and I will sign it for you or whoever you would like.
some Alma beer, red wine. And if you cannot drink that because it's gonna cause some brain
And so also, if you have some questions, then I'd be happy to answer them over the table alongside.
So over here, you can get a copy of the book for a little donation. Right over here. Or a big donation. Or a big donation. Elton, would you like one? And he can autograph it too.
And you donate enough, then you might be able to get
Yeah.